Welcome back, everyone, to America's Mom. I'm your host, Sherronna Bishop. Well, I tell you what, the devil has taken up residency in the state of Colorado, and the Steimer Labor Party has been caught with their hands in the pants of little children. But we will get to that in just a little bit here. I want to start out with the wild and crazy protests across the country that absolutely were not funded by George Soros. Nope. No checks were administered. Nobody was paid to be there. Oh, except for that's exactly what happened. Take a look at this. Indivisible, which is a Soros funded organization, was actively paying the protesters. So, for those of you who thought this was just a really great organic nationwide protest against not only Trump, but of course Elon Musk, because God forbid we can't be cutting federal government. It's such an interesting diabolical situation that's happening with the Democrats right now and the radical leftists. These are supposed to be the people who were like down with the man, down with big government even just 10 years ago. And here they are actively supporting the massive growth and procurement of government and government employees. If we can put up that notice from Indivisible, they were actively hiring people to show up at these events this last weekend. Can we put that graphic up? Go, guys. You get to see what a orange man. That's okay. Go ahead and play it. This was my actual personal testimony, my witness of one of these wild Indivisible rallies. They were wild. Guys, you get to see what a orange man bad, never Trump protest looks like. Are you watching? And here it is. Here they are in all their glory. This is it. Orange man bad. We love masks. There they are. There they are. See if you can identify them. Wow. So brave. So brave. I just have to commend them for daring to show their faces in East Texas and thinking that they would live through it. But seriously, these people are the sweetest people. I don't even know if half of the ones standing out there knew what they were standing out there for. But like I said, Indivisible was passing out checks, and we have it posted up on all of our social media. I don't know if producer Lauber has it for us for you guys to see right here, but go check it out. It literally was a call to action and a promise of payment if you showed up for these protests. So good on those who took advantage of some money from the Soros Foundation. Alex Soros, by the way, has moved into Houston. He's bought a top of the floor penthouse suite to start taking things to another level here in the Democrat Party. He obviously is not happy with how the Democrats have performed in Texas. So he has come straight here to figure out what's going on. George Soros, of course, has stepped down, they say, and Alex has taken the reins. So that was his first big event. Do you think George is proud of him? Indivisible, their first big rallying effort across the country under Alex Soros's competent leadership, I guess you could say. I think it was goofy, but let's take a look. I mean, this video I think is kind of telling. They don't know what they're protesting for. They don't know what they're talking about, but man, do they like violence. Take a listen to this one.
What are we protesting today?
Donald Trump.
Well, what's Donald Trump doing that we're protesting?
Well, he is fucking up the American democracy right now and trying to kind of repeal a bunch of shit in the Constitution, like, rights and liberties. So,
is there anything in specific that he's...
I don't have all the information, but I do know.
What are you against?
Personally, I'm against tyrants. I'm against tyranny. That's what I'm against.
What is that?
Somebody who's coming in and trying to take over the country and get rid of the rules and regulations that have existed for centuries to keep us citizens safe.
And who do you think is doing that?
Currently, Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all of his cabinet members.
Why Elon Musk, though?
The Department of Government Efficiency, he was put in charge of a department that doesn't even exist before this, and he's not even an American.
Who's not an American?
Elon Musk.
Okay,
He's from South Africa. I don't know if you knew that.
How do you feel about Donald Trump?
I think that he deserves to die.
I mean, tell us how you really feel, lefties, lefty lunatics. I think if you're going to say that someone is trampling on the Constitution and trying to get rid of the actual Constitution, you should at least know what those things are that you're standing out there holding a sign for. But again, I think he was paid. I think he was just mad enough to show up, but it doesn't hurt that they offered a couple $100 to stand out there and hold signs. That's the left for you. And wow, man, I can't get over how violent they are. They're so violent. They always want to kill people. They always want to. They want to destroy property. They want to shoot people. They want to burn things down. And as that man, woman, I don't know what that was actually, um, just said, they'd like to kill Elon Musk. So there you go. There's the left. There's the lunacy for today. Let's take it across the water for just a moment. It is the Steimer Seville party. And if you remember Jimmy Seville, he was the notorious pedophile that everybody loved, including the crown. He had massive positions of prominence and was accessible to children all the time. Well, Dan Norris has joined the Seville Club. He's one of the leaders in the Labour Party. Not only is the UK suffering from the Labour Party's dismantling of anything that's productive and possibly creating any type of future for the UK, but now they are being found to be in suspicion of offenses against children. I don't think anybody's surprised. Again, this is the party of Seville, also the Labour Party. This is something he promoted and endorsed. And I think Steimer is having a very hard day today. And I think there's going to be a lot more exposure because as government strangles its citizens more and more, even those you thought were on your side are going to begin to expose you and reveal what you really are, just so they can have a little taste of freedom again. Speaking of freedom and a lack thereof, and these kind of policies coming to America, I noticed a trend. I noticed a really radical similarity between the policies of Governor Jared Polis and the Steimer Party of the United Kingdom. And I thought, wow, they are really in cahoots here. I mean, it's almost like we have Ursula running Colorado right here, the head of the European Union under Jared Polis. I think it's not debatable any longer that Satan has definitely taken up residency in Colorado, and he is working through his primary priest, Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, and all of his lower priests, the Democrat legislature. Representative Brandi Bradley is with us today to talk about an unprecedented move again by the Democrat Party yesterday. Just when I thought, Brandi, that they couldn't do any worse than they've already been doing, they launched a massive attack against the family yesterday. Thank you for being with us on America's Mom.
Thanks for having me.
It's not really a laughing matter, actually, what just transpired in the state of Colorado and what the Democrat Party just did. Walk us through the highlights of that. And then I want to show a little video that you created to catch the attention of those, not only in Colorado, but across the country.
Yeah, so they brought forward the most egregious bills I have ever seen: assaults on the unborn, assaults on most family Christian values. So we are now going to pay taxpayer funded abortion for anyone out of the state, out of the country that comes to Colorado, and the taxpayers will fund it. It's a continuous appropriation. We couldn't stop that. They're hiding the data. We won't know how much funding we're spending on that in a $1 billion shortfall. That's what we're choosing to fund. We also are going to choose to fund, taxpayers are going to choose to fund elective procedures for men who think that they're women and want to feel more womanly. And, you know, when we're not doing the basic necessities for the people of Colorado. And then probably the worst one that they silence us on is a parental rights bill, where they're going to actively take children from Colorado families if you misgender or dead name your children. In fact, you won't even be able to ask questions about puberty blockers without them taking your children. Coloradans have got to wake up. This is way worse, way more progressive than California and some of the other states.
So just for people who may not understand what dead naming is, also, that would be the previous name before you changed your quote gender. And so maybe you were Brittany at one time, now you've become Brian. And so if somebody accidentally calls you Brittany, that is now a criminal offense, or will be a criminal offense under this bill in Colorado.
And they'll go against small businesses. We are the 6th most regulated state. Small businesses are suffering at the hand of the Democrats and Jared Polis. And now we are going to make it a crime for you to misgender or dead name an employee.
You know, not to be petty or anything, but I've seen some of these people who are trying to pass. I've watched them testify. Brittany Tatone, fortunately, has had the taxpayer dollars paid to him to look more feminine, I think, than definitely he was a year ago. He's one of those men who's paid to have breast augmentation. And you're saying this bill is now going to be funding other men who want to run around with a fetish for having female breasts and pretending to be woman face. So this is what's happening in the state of Colorado. Let's get to the parents' situation here, though, because this is the part people are having a hard time swallowing. If a parent is not in agreement of the child's transition, this is their child, this child belongs to the parent. If they're not in agreement, are you saying that this bill allows for the state to take custody of the child?
It allows for the courts to make that ruling. And this can be schools just saying, if your little boy goes to school and says, I feel like a girl, and they could go on to these questions. Well, do you get affirmed at home? And if they say no, then they turn that over to child services, and the courts will decide whether or not you are coercively controlling your children. Yes.
And I'm a little confused because it seems to me the bills that have been passed in Colorado already support this movement. I mean, we've heard in the last couple of weeks of teachers who've actually they've taken over custody essentially of other people's children, one for a romance, another a coach who actually convinced a child to deem themselves homeless and then took custody of that child based on the Colorado laws as they stand right now. So is this bill just kind of reinforcing and kind of putting the bold exclamation mark on this is the way it's going to be in Colorado? You will have every school, including charter schools, adopting radical gender transition policies, and parents will either go along with the trans ideology or they'll lose their children. Is this just kind of an exclamation on the policies that have already been passed in Colorado?
Well, I think that there's a lot of court cases that parents like me that would sue are winning. And so I think this is just the nail in the coffin to make sure the courts are justified under the law. And so this is just codifying it into statute. And I'll tell you, I ran a bill to put child rapists in jail. So in the state of Colorado, you can rape 10 different children 3 different times and get probation. 70% of criminals out here that rape children in the state of Colorado are off on probation. And so you tell me if this isn't part of a bigger agenda, because we included trusted adults in that plan or in that bill, and 6 Democrats killed that bill.
Wow. So again, now people who are listening right now and they think this can't possibly be happening, it's going to be taken down in the courts. When I'm scrolling through X and I'm seeing their response to what you're telling them and what is actually in the bill, I'm seeing people say, well, it just gets knocked down in the courts, but that's not actually true, is it?
No, and you're talking about children being taken from their homes and put into foster care. And we're talking years at a time. Would you want your child taken from you because you don't want them to go through lifelong sterility and mutilation as a minor and put into the foster care system, and you have to fight for years to get your child back? It is a lose-lose situation for the children and for the parents.
So, what is the plan moving forward? Actually, before we talk about that, you guys were silenced in any sort of actual debate over these bills yesterday. Can you talk about what happened by the Democrat legislature and who is the speaker? I apologize that I should know this, but who is the speaker that essentially told you guys there will be no more debate about this?
Well, Julie McCluskey is the Speaker of the House. Monica Durana is the majority leader, but it has to be a 2/3 vote. So 2/3 of the party decided to limit us on our speech. And so Rule 16 is there's no debate. So 1.9 million Coloradans and then several in blue counties were limited on their ability for conservatives to speak out against these egregious bills.
That seems wild. This is the party that says screams and hollers democracy. This is the party that's standing out, having paid rallies and protests across the country right now, saying that Trump is a tyrant and that Elon is a tyrant by wanting to shrink government. But you have the Democrat Party of Colorado silencing any debate on the most outrageous and extreme parental rights bills, abortion laws, and of course, funding for all of these things by the Colorado taxpayer. What am I missing? What am I missing here? Representative Bradley, what am I missing? What do the Democrats know that I don't know? What do I not understand about, quote, democracy?
We've been taken over by progressive communists that don't believe in freedom of speech, and they silence us more and more. But they get up to the well and they talk about freedom of speech and freedom of healthcare for everyone, abortions for everyone. And the last bill was doctors not putting their names on prescriptions for telehealth medicine for the abortion pill. So can you imagine waking up one morning and your daughter not being alive because she took an abortion pill and went septic because the baby wasn't completely aborted, and now you have no idea what she took. You have no idea the doctor that prescribed her the bill. I mean, these are the things that we're going through in 12 when they can have them.
Mm-hmm. It's at 12 years old. 12, are you saying at 12 years old in Colorado, they can have the abortion pill without parental consent?
Correct.
Wow. People don't believe this stuff. They don't believe this is happening in Colorado. They don't believe it's happening anywhere in America. You also have an extremely radical anti-gun bill. I think about all the people who actually need to have protection in Colorado that no longer will. That bill is currently sitting on Jared Polis's desk, and I know the clock has begun on that. This radical bill disallows people really to be able to purchase these guns without facing extreme invasion and interference to prove that they're eligible to have a gun, which of course is a violation of the Second Amendment. Do you have any updates on that? What are people saying there in the House about that bill now?
I mean, we fought it tooth and nail. You're talking about having to jump through 8 different hoops just to get a gun to protect yourself. You have a 3-day waiting period, but the most tremendous part of this bill is that you have to go through a safety training class. And in small rural districts where they only have 2 firearm safety trainees, you're talking a year out. So women who are trying to protect themselves from sexual assault or just defend their property are going to have to wait a year to even get a gun at this point. It is the most egregious gun bill we've ever seen. It is worse than anything we've seen in California and other states, and we're going to be in real trouble.
We're seeing a lot of adoption of really wildly progressive policies, and yet Jared Polis has positioned himself as a libertarian businessman. He runs around with his blue tennis shoes and wears a cowboy hat from time to time. He's just all about the freedom of Coloradans, right? Free Colorado. Remember that hashtag from a few months ago? And he's just all about people living free. He stole my hashtag on that, actually. And yet here we have, like you said, the number 6 most restricted, highest regulation state in the country under Jared Polis. Can you tell us a little bit about the Tabor issue that's happening there? Tabor is meant to protect taxpayers from an out of control spending government so they can't raise taxes without the people's consent by a vote. What's going on that Jared Polis is trying to once again usurp the vote and will of the people?
Right. They're bringing a resolution. I think it's being heard in committee today to take away Tabor, even though when they stood up there and talked about the abortion amendment, 62% of voters wanted this. You know, we stand down. Okay, 62% of voters wanted it, but also an overwhelming amount of voters do want Tabor to stay. We voted on it 3 times. And so this is just another way to usurp the will of the people and to continue with government overspending. We're $1 billion, some say $5 billion in debt. And the only thing keeping us from really worse debt is Tabor.
So what can the people who are listening right now, we have a lot of Coloradans that are asking, what can we do? What's the best action to take right now? What's the most effective thing Colorado citizens can be doing? And honestly, even people from outside of Colorado who are watching, just know that these bills don't just stay in one state. They make the rounds. If you're a Democrat controlled state, these bills are coming for you too. What should people be doing today?
They have to testify. They have to come out and testify when these bills are going, when 1312, which is against the parental rights, where you can take a child if they name or dead name one of your children. They have to come to the Senate and testify. 70% of the trans community came, and testimony was overloaded by the LGBTQ. If parents don't want their kids taken, they have to show up. They have to either remote testify, or they have to be in person and they have to testify, or they need to email everyone. But we have to make our voices known.
Everybody who's watching, you can follow Representative Brandi Bradley from the state of Colorado at Bradley for Colorado or Bradley for CO. And the links are all there. I've shared it also, so you guys can quickly go and register to share testimony. I do believe you have to be a Colorado citizen to share testimony, or no? Can anyone?
You have to be a Colorado resident.
Okay, wonderful. But you know what? That doesn't stop you guys from emailing Jared Polis to let him know now that this is not a bill that anyone supports and that the rest of this country is watching this guy. Jared Polis has had his eye on the presidency for some time. He has more than entertained it. And the fact that he runs such an incredible marketing program on all of his social media platforms, on the media, even on Fox News, of this moderate, centrist, always acting bipartisan, just this great unifier, when the actual laws that have been passed in the state of Colorado are the most strangulating. They're the most defiant in the face of normal, natural, neutral, traditional family values, and even, like you're talking about today, parental rights. If you don't want to lose your children, get active. Representative Brandi Bradley, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It was good to see you.
Good to see you also always. We are done with this stuff. We're done with this nonsense. It's time for a new, fresh resurrection of the mothers and the mama bears there in Colorado. I know we've been through it for the last 6 years, but it's a fight that's just not going to end because Jared Polis isn't going to stop. There is money to be made here on the mutilation and the transitioning of children. This is a state that is going to be trafficking children into Colorado and not only accepting it, but endorsing it, promoting it. They've made really bizarre commercials that include Amy Schumer for the radical abortion opportunities you have in the state of Colorado. You can come get your abortion any day of the week, all the time. And as Brandi Bradley just exposed, the Colorado taxpayers will foot the bill. How many of you are actually okay with that? You okay with footing the bill for people from foreign countries coming to Colorado to have day of birth abortions? And yes, that is exactly what I said. It is. And that's exactly what's happening in the state of Colorado. It is legal and it's not lawful, but it's legal there to have to abort, to murder your baby on delivery day. Yeah. Wow. So progressive. So progressive. It's so heathenistic. And that's what's happening in Colorado. And if you don't stand up now, if you don't get active and vocal now, there's nothing going to be left to save in Colorado. And again, I want to just reiterate those people who are saying, yeah, these things just get taken before the court, though, and they get undone. That's not what's happening in Colorado. We have a whole nother side of the judicial system of Colorado. They've been bribed, they've been blackmailed. I don't need to go back over the Mindy Macias situation, but maybe I should for those who don't know. I mean, the entire Colorado Supreme Court was blackmailed by a woman named Mindy Macia from the probation department. And I don't even know exactly what that blackmail entailed, but it sounds very dirty. That's what I can tell you. And she got away with it for a while. And that Colorado Supreme Court was never penalized, never faced any type of discipline whatsoever. In fact, many of them are still serving right now. So there you go. That's Colorado Judicial. Do not expect any relief from them anytime soon. The reality is right now, the federal government is really the only solution. And I do not like saying that. As you all know, I am not for centralized government. I don't want the interference of the federal government, but I don't see any path forward where you can protect the innocence of children outside of the federal government right now because Jared Polis hit this radical progressive communist takeover in Colorado is held by the majority of the legislature. So the House, the Senate, Polis, the AG, the Secretary of State, you all know about her, Jenna Griswold. She's now running as for Attorney General, which is absolutely insane. I feel like what I want to do is I want to create a blind page 9 that's all about Colorado politics, where we name everybody and all the gross stuff they're doing. You just don't know who's writing the content. I think we should do that. I think we should do that because if you knew half the things going on with these disgusting people in the Democrat Party, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's unconscionable. And I think that more citizens in Colorado would wake up. They would not be a part of the Democrat Party. They would leave in mass if they really understood what was happening. So today, they want your children. They want to keep mutilating them. They want to take them from you, parents, if you are traditional values, if you are God, country, family, if you don't believe in the trans ideology, they're going to take your kids from you. Make sure to follow Brandi Bradley. It's Bradley for Colorado on X to see all the latest. I think she does a fantastic job of keeping people informed and updated. On that note, I want to take a moment and just acknowledge our sponsor before we bring our next guest in. It's a critical time right now, you guys, in light of President Trump's tariffs and the war to bring America back to her greatness against all odds, including some of our own citizens. And the best and fastest way to do that, of course, is to support American made, American manufacturers and put American workers first. I have been saying this for years. It's been my mantra for almost 2 decades now. American workers first. And that's what we're here to do. One of my favorite places is shopwithpatriots.com. I get all of my everyday use items there, from toothpaste to hair wash, all of my incredible supplements. It is an elite performance supplement company, by the way. You're going to love it. Has everything that you're doing. I mean, over 500 everyday use items that you're already using, but you guys, they are toxin free. They are made right here in America. They do not mess with your endocrine system, so your hormones are safe for both you and your children. And if your dog eats something, they're going to be perfectly fine as well. So your laundry soap to a natural bleach that doesn't cause any harm to you, all the way to your dishwasher tabs. You're going to love what this company has to offer, made right here in America. And one of the greatest things was during the COVID season, they brought all of their manufacturing right here to America and had zero supply chain campaign issues. And that's what we found, right? Was that people had been, really pilfering to the bottom line rather than to the best that America has to offer. Well, not this company. So go to shopwithpatriots.com. It is a club. Be prepared to join the most wonderful patriots in this country who are standing by and supporting America first. Shopwithpatriots.com. Go check it out today. Well, I know that you may not think it matters a whole lot when we're talking about what's happening across the pond and over in the European Union and in the United Kingdom. But it really actually does matter because you have liberal lunatics losing their minds over the tariffs right now. And one of those liberal lunatics, of course, is Ursula. And we're going to wait. I don't want you to run the video yet, but I want to preface this because I didn't tell our great guest that we were going to be talking about Ursula, but we are, and I know he will have a lot to say about her, the head of the EU. But what's happening over the year in the European Union does affect us, especially when you find out that America is funding it through U.S. aid through the previous administrations. Some of the downfall of the ability to self-govern, the nationalism, the candidates that are actually standing up for the culture, the heritage, the future of their own countries. And we saw this just this last week. I've invited David Cameron to join us today because I know that Bannerman, he knows everything that's going on over there and always has a great perspective. He led the fight for Brexit and is leading the fight for freedom still over in the United Kingdom. So thank you so much for being with us, David.
Hi, Sherronna. Good to be back on your show.
Well, I someday we'll just be talking about all the victories and the winning that the United Kingdom is having once things get back on track. But for right now, the Labour Party is hard at work. I hate that I saw this article today about Dan Norris being caught with his, hands on children, doing unspeakable things. So I mean, yeah, allegedly, you're correct, and we
Yeah.
better say that because you're in the UK and they send people to your door for that stuff. Allegedly, there's no freedom of speech. And now they've just taken out your candidate. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I don't know much about that case, Dan Norris, but it is quite extraordinary. He beat one of our top ministers, Jacob Rees-Mogg, in North East Somerset. I helped in that election. So Dan Morris is mayor of the west of England, so that's Bristol and Bath, places like that, quite familiar in America, I think. And so he's facing these charges of child abduction, allegedly, and rape, allegedly. And so, I mean, it is an extraordinary case, and Labour seems to be running into a lot of problems with ministers. I mean, Conservatives had their own record at times, I have to say, but Labour are trying to outdo us at the moment with a lot of these ministers having to step back or resign.
Well, that's kind of fascinating that that people are still exposing them even with the temperature of UK right now. There's a lot of fear. Us sitting over here, we see every day we've got a woman praying on the street and she's taken into custody. We've got a mother of two who did a Facebook post and I still don't even understand what it was that she said that was even questionably wrong, but she said something about immigrants that I guess wasn't taken well, and she is now facing 2 years in prison. So then we see the Labour Party having. Now, this is horrifying stuff. This is actually potentially real criminal behavior. And I wonder if there will be an equal standard.
Well, you're right to raise freedom of speech issues, Sherronna, and thank you for doing so, because I'm chairman of the Freedom Association in the UK, and we have a real battle here trying to point to this widespread abuse of free speech, which we thought was safe and secure. We've always taken it as a birthright in the UK, Magna Carta onwards, and now we have real problems, with people speaking out, hardly saying anything, and being arrested or thrown in prison or or closed down. I mean, it's really scary. It's kind of Soviet style. And there's a real battle to be had there. So, I mean, anything you guys can do to help us. The Free Speech Union does a great job in Britain, and people pay into that, for protection. But it's kind of out of control at the moment. And I mean, I do my best to highlight these cases and to fight the good fight. But I mean, we all live one X or one tweet away from trouble. I mean, we live in very circumscribed times, and you know, you can get into trouble for one tweet, as people I know have. So it's very worrying. I don't recognise this Britain we're in. I really don't. And thank you for caring in America and for raising it. Elon Musk has been great. Donald Trump raises it. It's a real issue because, you know, we share so much. We share Magna Carta. We share so much of this legacy of freedom of speech and rights, and going back in time. And so it does matter to the United States as it does to us.
I want to just bring up to Marie Le Pen. And you and I have been at the conferences, the Make Europe Great Again conferences together, and have gotten to see firsthand how people are feeling about what's happening to them. And it really is the pressure of the EU and the globalists, what's happening to them, to the people. There are some who have tried to stand up and try to run races, good, legitimate races, to take over leadership and represent the people properly. Marie Le Pen is one of those. And just this last week, it was decided she could not run. What do you know about this? And I mean, there's a real warning here for America. And I'd love to get your thoughts about what's going on there.
Well, Marine Le Pen was a fellow member of the European Parliament to me, MEP to me. I knew her a bit, not terribly well, but she's been blocked from standing as president of France on the basis that she misused her staff. I mean, what happens? This happens with all members of the European Parliament. There's this debate whether, well, look, are they working for you as a member of the European Parliament, parliamentary business, as opposed to party business? You're not meant to have your people campaign in a party sense. I understand that, and you know, you have got to keep on the right side of the law. But this is an extreme reaction. And what we're seeing here is a kind of Soviet style, again, this is Soviet style, of closing down a political rival that's leading the polls in France. And it really should be down to the French people to choose her, and not saying, you know, the thing about freedom of speech is you're fighting for the principle of freedom of speech. You don't have to agree with Marine Le Pen. Her father was fairly obnoxious, actually, to be honest, but she's broken away from him, and she is, you know, far more mainstream. And here she is being blocked. And I think that's very dangerous. I've involved the Northern Ireland peace process. If democracy is frustrated, then you've got a problem, because especially in France, they're pretty good at revolutions and, you know, filling the streets. And she had a big rally recently, one of the biggest ever rallies of the
Yeah, let's
national
post that
revolution.
up. Let's post that
Yeah,
up, actually.
yeah.
Yeah, I want people to see this because the nation is outraged. France is
Impressive.
outraged.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
impressive. And I mean, there's a bit element of Trump about this because of lawfare. You know, they're using the law to silence her as they were trying to silence President Trump.
Yeah.
And it's backfired already. And I reckon she's going to get a year's help on this, where people say it's outrageous. There's a lot of people in France saying, well, we don't agree with what she says, but she shouldn't be blocked. She should be allowed to stand, which is my view. You know, I'm shocked by this, but it happened in Romania, as you know, and I think you were there recently. We were
Mhm.
there last year in Romania, Bucharest. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking we are sliding back to the bad old days of the Soviet
Mhm.
Union in the way that the EU operates. I mean, it's very, very worrying, and it's not acceptable. And anyone on the right seems to get extra attention, including in Britain now. You know, we are sort of sought out and as being unsound and, you know, the wrong opinions. Well, that's what they used to do in the Soviet Union.
Yes. I want to take a look at that video actually, just to demonstrate for the people who are watching how wildly popular Marie Le Pen is. Run that video just so people can see the gathering of the French people in support of her.
President Trump's announcement
Oh,
of
this is
universal
Ursula.
tariffs on
Sorry, well,
Yes.
it'll be a minute. Maybe we can find it. Anyway, so she's been wildly successful in gathering national support. And you pointed out very well that Romania has just gone through it, Germany has gone through it, Poland has gone through it. The interesting thing about the Romania situation was that it was the French ambassador who actually came down to the Supreme Court of Romania, had a word with them, and then afterwards, the Supreme Court declared that Călin Georgescu was not eligible to run. They would not allow him to insert his name to run for president again. And this is after they already took his victory from him earlier in December. So I think it's really fascinating that France is meddling so much in other people's elections in the EU. I think it's really interesting, and learning that Macron has obligations and he has duties to certain people that he's going to have to fulfill. I had no idea how much control France had over Romanian industry and how much of their industry that France literally owns and operates, including their $2 billion venture in the Black Sea. So I guess it wouldn't be, a good idea to let somebody like Marie Le Pen, who's a nationalist, who believes in the sovereignty of her country and other people's rights to govern their country the way they want to, when you have somebody like Macron and somebody who could potentially follow him, who believes that people don't get to do what they want to do. They need to do what France decides they should do, and what the EU decides. What do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, you're right about Macron. I mean, he's very pro the European Union. He's now in a pretty unrivaled position because the German leader, Schulz, lost the election in Germany. So, Macron is running around. He came to see President Trump, and he was all over him, touching him every moment, And but he's playing this dangerous diplomatic game, Macron. I don't trust the French, I'm afraid, in terms of politics and Macron. And they are intervening, and they're doing so because of the EU. They think the EU is theirs. They are, it's a French style system. It is in many ways, but with the power of Germany behind it. But it's very undemocratic, this. But do they care about democracy? I don't think they are. I mean, Macron himself has really not been in democratic politics. His party came from nowhere. He was really sort of businessman, commercial type, banker.
Sort of banker,
Yeah,
sort of.
yeah, we're getting a lot of these technocrats. Starmer's a technocrat. Sunak, my British Prime Minister and Conservative, let us all down. He's a technocrat, and we've seen this. Monti, he was Prime Minister in Italy. He took over after the crisis of 2008, but he crashed in the elections because he's a technocrat. And we've got Carney in Canada, who's another technocrat. And all of these people worship at the altar of the World Economic Forum, globalism and corporatism. And they are a threat to the world. They're all working together, frankly, and not on our side.
Wow. What do you think is the solution for this? I mean, I do think Trump wielding the tariff power is having a massive impact, maybe just to
Yep.
kind of make you chuckle a little bit.
Yeah.
This falls right in. Run the first Ursula video for me, please. And then we're going to run part 2. Go ahead and play it for us, Michael.
President Trump's announcement of universal tariffs on the whole world, including the European Union, is a major blow to the world economy. I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism. The consequences will be dire for millions of people around the globe, also for the most vulnerable countries, which are now subject to some of the highest US tariffs, the opposite of what we wanted to achieve. The tariffs will also hurt consumers around the world. It will be felt immediately. Millions of citizens will face higher grocery bills. Medication will cost more, as well as transportation. Inflation will go up. And this is hurting in particular the most vulnerable citizens.
So Ursula von der Leyen says this 4 days ago. Now let's run part 2 as of this morning.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal, so we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
Oh, what a turnabout. David, what do we credit that to?
Well, that's pressure. I mean, the United States is a huge market for German cars, BMW, Mercedes, VW, etc., etc. And they are major exporters to the US, the EU. We are a bit as well as Rolls-Royce, Jaguar, etc. But this is them. It's funny because the EU is very hypocritical. I mean, it talks about tariffs. I mean, the customs union is all about tariffs. We've left the customs union now, thank goodness, with Brexit. It has these massive tariff walls, and it's very unfair to the rest of the world, including 10% on American cars, whereas you only charge 2.5% to US market. So it's been very unbalanced. They move fast because they know they can't afford to lose the United States market. The other thing I would say about her is that, who's elected this woman? I mean, she is president of Europe, apparently, and yet, she's no one's elected her, not unlike President Trump. I mean, she gets a confirmation hearing in the European Parliament. That's news. And when she was defense minister in Germany, she had a terrible record. She didn't spend enough on defense, and you had like soldiers with broomsticks. So she's not hasn't been a great success even as a minister either.
Well, I think that I want to cut those two videos. And I mean, it's literally Trump effect. Hearing the we don't want Trump's personality, we just want all the benefit of Trump. This is the benefit of Trump's personality right here. This is knowing that what he says he means and he's not going to back down. And as you just pointed out, we were not charging them nearly what they've been charging us. And I think that reality, we're going to talk about that more in the next segment with Michael Lauber, but it's really important for the American people to start opening up their eyes and being educated on what is happening around the world. Not that we need to know everything, but I mean, this is basic right now, especially since they're weaponizing it against Trump's administration. But to see that quick of a 4-day turnabout, and this is Ursula, by the way, Ursula Leyen, and if you're spend any time over in Europe around the conservatives, you see these horrible graphics that they've made of her. They disrespect her so much because, like you said, she's wildly hypocritical. She can't hide her globalism and her elitism, and she does
Yeah.
not believe in the sovereignty of each of these nation states.
No,
And so
absolutely.
watching her have to pedal backwards like that so fast was beautiful.
Amusing.
To say the very least. David, thank you so much for being with us. David
Nice to be
Bannerman,
on
go
again. Nice to
follow
talk
him.
to you.
Yes,
Thank you
absolutely.
very
Find
much.
him on X.
DCB MEP on X. Yeah, DCB MEP. Nice to see you.
Absolutely. DCB MEP on X, David Bannerman. Thank you so much. David
Thank you so
Campbell-Bannerman,
much.
actually.
Cheers, Sherronna.
Appreciate you.
Cheers. Bye.
Well, we can't talk about the European Union. We can't talk about what's happening in France and what's happening in the United Kingdom without understanding that there is a lot of vitriol for President Trump and the fact that he is finally making people pay their dues. And again, the sentiment that I've experienced, and I know Michael Lauber's been with me over there in Europe also. He's going to be joining me for this last segment. They want all of the Trump effect, but they don't want President Trump's bold style and his bold approach. They are afraid of that. But I think President Trump's been demonstrating, especially with his fake love fest with Macron, that he does know what he's doing. He does know how to work each of these individuals, and he understands what their motive is. And if you know motive, then you know all things. And as we watch the United Kingdom continue just to disintegrate under the Labour Party, which is meant to completely crush and destroy the United Kingdom, I'm very sad for those people. David Bannerman, it's hard. It's devastating, honestly, having someone like him on our show, knowing how much work and effort he has put into freeing the people of the United Kingdom, only to see them be enslaved again under Steimer's Labour Party. So one can hope that all of their transgressions are exposed to the public and they quickly recognize their effort. And who knows? I mean, maybe the parliament will even be thrown out and a new vote begins. They do things very different over there, but this would be cause certainly for an entirely new governance there. The fact that the UK is drowning so fast after such a quick recovery post Brexit. David Campbell-Bannerman, go follow him. He's a wealth of information and such a gentleman. Such a gentleman. He is always shocked by how brazen we are here in America, but I love it. All right, Michael Lauber, are you going to be joining me in just a moment here? Yes.
How's it going?
Well, I tell you what, I mean, America is having a little fight with itself right now, not understanding what's going on. Not There's so much nonsense coming from the right about what President Trump is doing right now, and
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, like they've been in office for 4 months. What's wrong with everybody?
well, that I don't
Did you freeze on
know.
me?
Oh, looks like my camera froze somehow. I'll get that fixed here in a second. But yeah, it's been glorious watching markets and pretend this is a much bigger problem than it actually is. Pretend. Let's see if I pop back up here. There we go.
There we go.
Pretend that like this is a crisis. We heard all weekend, and when I heard Jim Cramer say this is going to be Black Monday, I knew it wasn't going to be. We even had a turnaround in the market earlier when this fake news came out that the tariffs were going to be suspended for 3 months. But I mean, this is all in America's interest. 150 countries, over 150 countries, had tariffs on American goods going back decades, and we've done nothing about it. Nancy Pelosi and the other little socialist over there, Bernie Sanders, clips emerged last Friday of them touting the benefit of tariffs. But right now our media just pretends everything Trump does is incorrect. And that's why they keep falling on their face. Because we've already had over 50, I saw a story earlier saying 70, but I think that was an exaggeration, of countries that have already come back to the table wanting a resolution to these tariffs, wanting them eliminated. And again, that's the opposite we heard last week. The only thing that's dying is the World Economic Forum's dream of a great reset. That's completely out the window now that production's being shifted out of China to other countries, because the countries approaching us right now, like I just saw the Japanese now are going to have a meeting with Trump now later this week or early next week regarding the tariffs there. But these have not had the effect that they've said they would.
Right.
It's a reset. All these countries know they've been taking advantage of us for decades, and that's coming to an end.
It is pretty amazing. I mean, you saw the footage there with Ursula Levay. She runs the European Union. So she's in charge really of she's turning the neck on all of those countries right now. And so for her to have stood up, how obnoxious were her comments? This is the whole world is going to die. Everything's going to tank. And then not even 4 days later, she comes to the table and is like, "Oh, we're super happy. We're so happy to negotiate," because they're lying. They're lying. They're telling people this horrible story. And I'm seeing it with supposed, conservative influencers on X right now too. Health Ranger, if anybody follows him, I know he's a good guy, but I don't know that. What am I saying? I don't even know any of these people. But the nonsense that I'm seeing that is trying to malign President Trump and make it seem as though he is destroying everybody and everything and he's just on a demolition derby right now is completely false. And you just pointed that out. 68 countries have already come to the table and said, let's renegotiate. We are ready. There was a lot of authority with President Trump to get things right side back again. We can move forward, we can progress, we can live free again. We're not under these crazy globalists who were literally have people forgotten that they literally were trying to destroy the world just a year ago, just 6 months ago.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, and I mean, here's the thing, like what's fair is fair. If 150 countries have been tariffing the US for decades, and that's not a bad thing, how is it a bad thing when we implement reciprocal tariffs to try to get trade under control and trade deficits? That's the other thing too that keeps getting misconstrued, is this isn't just about tariffs, it's about trade deficits. It's about having a pathway for US goods to enter foreign markets, like American cars. We sell plenty of Japanese cars here, but it's almost impossible to get anything but a Cadillac into Japan. And even then, it's at a huge markup, which diminishes our market share. So there's another side to this coin of tariffs I think a lot of people are forgetting about, especially when it comes to the auto industry and other large ticket manufactured items that are still made here in the United States. Is this also is going to have an effect of reducing the price for Americans, because as we're producing more of these goods, the cost to manufacture them comes down, which means that's going to be good for us here at home, because the cost of a U.S. produced vehicle may decrease by a few $1,000s. And again, a few $1,000 isn't, giant in the grand scheme of things. But when you have this happening over and over again, we've already seen prices for some of our food items. Fast food in particular has already seen a decrease just in the under 3 months that Trump's been in office. We're going to continue to see this as we bring jobs home. We start producing more things here. We're also going to see, we have almost $5 trillion of promised new investment in the U.S. economy here from various foreign companies. So this is going to be high-tech jobs in microchip and software manufacturing, AI development, Stellantis, General Motors, BMW, VW, Nissan, and Honda have all promised to bring auto manufacturing jobs back into the U.S. and huge investments there, along with other companies in the tech industry from NVIDIA on. There's going to be a huge resurgence in the American economy over the next couple months as things begin to realign themselves, and that is in thanks to these tariffs.
So for people who are rushing ahead and they're saying they're making all their negative predictions, they're saying all of their nonsense. I think we probably do have to address the stock market a little bit right now because the Secretary of Treasury just did an interview with Tucker Carlson and he pointed out, listen, it's going to be rough for the top 10%. They are going to be losing while we build the foundation of our country back up again, which is the lower income and middle income Americans. I want to personally say 18-pack of organic cage-free eggs yesterday was down to $6.45. Last week they were still at $9. I was excited though because that was still less than I believe is around 11 something the week before. Things are progressively improving for the majority of Americans. And this is where I get so confused because the Democrat Party doesn't even know itself. They don't even know what they stand for. They're so consumed with Trump derangement syndrome and now Elon derangement syndrome that they don't recognize they're winning. The argument they've always been forcing onto people is the top 10% should be, they shouldn't be getting richer, while everyone else is suffering. Okay, well, this strategy, literally, the Secretary of Treasury just said, listen, the top 10% is going to lose money. The stock is going to go down. Okay, they're going to lose. But the bottom of America that's been in the freaking pit for the last 5 years is finally going to have an opportunity to merge from the ashes. Okay. And things are going to be better significantly for all of us. I thought that's what Democrats were about. I'm confused.
Yeah, well, not anymore. Their priorities have changed ever since the Trump derangement syndrome kicked in. Now it's just we're going to be against anything that Trump or the Republicans are for. We're not going to have any more common sense or try to find any areas of commonality or agreement. But to go what you said about the markets and with Scott Bissett, I'm not sure if it was the same interview because I haven't seen the whole thing with that he just did with Tucker yet, but I saw a great clip from him that he said, this isn't about the Meg 7, the magnificent 7, the 7 biggest companies trading on the markets, your Googles, Apples, and all that. This is about mega. This is about making America great again. And yeah, there is going to be some pain at the top. If you have a 401k, like I looked at mine over the weekend, it's probably down, 15 to 18%, something like that. But it's only on paper. As long as I don't go out and sell, I'll still get the bounce back when the markets recover. Because again, we all know they're going to at some point. Maybe it's a month out, maybe it's 3 months out, but we'll see. But that money's not gone. Now, I understand people are freaking out that are right coming up to their retirement. And I do understand. Again, on paper, it doesn't look good. But let's go back to this supposed Black Monday. Just to put this in perspective, first of all, we had the stock market drop during Biden's regime 2 times where they had to hit the brakes because of and stop all trading because of how far the markets had sunk. That hasn't happened at all during Trump yet, and it's not going to happen today. Now, to put this in further perspective, Cramer and the rest of these guys calling for a Black Monday today. It's going to be, the worst crash since the 1980s. Well, that's impossible. Because those breaks will kick in, and that would mean the market would need to lose over 10,000 points in one day to be the equivalent of the Black Monday from the 1980s. So it's just not going to happen. These guys are just fear mongering.
And that can't, not when you have, again, you have all the countries acquiescing to Trump's negotiations. They're all coming on board. They're happy to do so. You have one of the most wretched leftist globalists in the world, Ursula Land, saying, we're coming to the table. We're ready to negotiate. Remember, she represents, I believe, 26 countries. I mean, they're coming to the table because they know they don't have any other choice. America is what keeps the world going. And that's what we've been talking about. We've been talking about this idea of American exceptionalism, the founding principle that all ships rise with America, you can take that to the bank. If we are doing well, everyone is going to be doing well. And so it's disgusting and disturbing to watch people capitalize on the clickbait and support my rhetoric, my nonsense here because I'm getting likes and views. And of course, these world leaders who continue to perpetuate this nonsense because of their globalist agenda. It's not based in reality or facts. If you're seeing it from the so-called conservative or whatever, I'm just like, stop following them. Just stop.
Yeah.
We are not living in fearful times. We truly are preparing for the greatest age this country has ever seen. We finally have somebody at the helm who understands and then gives a damn about the regular person. I mean, truly, he's not messing around. And for them to say, we understand that the top 10% are going to feel this, but they're going to be all right. They know how to make money. They'll figure it out again. It's going to be all right. It's the rest of us in this country who have not had an opportunity yet to see that American dream be a reality for us. The dollar has not stretched. It has not been worth its weight in a very long time. Those things are going to be corrected, and we need the American people to just hang on for this ride, pray and look for opportunity, and do not allow these fear mongers to invade your circle. Just cast them out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, China is continuing to talk tough right now, but don't expect that to hold up much longer. And they're going to have a full-on rebellion from their own people if they start to have a negative economic impact within the country from these tariffs from Trump. So they're going to capitulate too. Just give it a little while. They want to talk tough. They want to try to pretend they're in control, but they can't exist as a nation and keep all their people happy without continued trade with the U.S. And if these tariffs stay in place, it's going to be greatly diminished, and their country will go into rebellion.
It's so true, and it is the interview with Scott Bessent, the current Treasury Secretary, and he explains all of this. And this is a meant to be understood interview, guys. I've actually posted in the comments of X America News. Go watch this interview. It's very critical that you understand what's going on, so that you don't give in to the rhetoric of those who are just clickbaiting you and do not understand what President Trump is doing. Now, I want to reiterate, I'm not like this, sold out Trumper. I get it though. I see what's happening here. I know enough to know this is the pathway forward, and the honesty with which Scott Bessent comes at us with in this interview. Yeah, guess what, guys? This hasn't been done before. But if we stay on this fake track that we've been on the last 20, 25, 30 years, we're going to tank, and the whole world will go with us. And that will allow the NWO, this one world order, to come forward and finish up what they tried to do over the last 4 years. But thank God, Trump is standing in the way of that, and his cabinet is standing in the way of that. And we need to get behind this movement now. I just appreciate you so much, Michael. Thanks for all the investigation that you do on this, and keeping everybody up to date. Do we have time just really quick to talk about the judges in DC? Because this is really critical information too. Yeah, American people need to understand what is going on with the judiciary. I see way too much credit being put on these judges, and they don't understand that the judges are acting as political activists. They have other motives, and there's no way for us to self-correct them. There's no
No.
way. There's no way for the people to correct them.
No, and I mean, these judges are clearly overstepping their bounds with the vast majority of these 170 plus cases that have been taken up against President Trump. Bulk of what they're going after are powers clearly designated to the president and the executive branch. And we're supposed to pretend that a DC circuit court, inferior court judge somehow has the power co-equal to the president, that they can impose a nationwide injunction. This needs to be put to a stop immediately, and because they can't just slow walk and steamroll the president, tie him up in court for 6 to 8 months, especially when it comes to military operations like clearing out the border, or the other interference with the executive branch's personnel, demanding that he rehire this person, fire that person, and put their policy back in place, or judges that are demanding them spend money on illegal aliens or other unlawful activity. As far as I'm concerned, if we're housing or buying food or whatever else for illegal aliens, and I don't care if it's children, adults, whoever it is, then this is no different than facilitating any other crime. You're allowing it to happen. So they ought to just refuse to comply on those grounds, that if this would be illegal for us to hand out this money to an illegal alien, this is facilitating a crime, and therefore the executive branch cannot go along with it. Take it to the Supreme Court if they have to, but we need to do something to put an end to this immediately.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? Because the precedent was already set in the Biden administration that they don't have the ability to force a president to rehire or change his policies. The power in which he's already been given, that was actually reestablished, reasserted under Biden's administration that he did have those powers, and there was really, frankly, nothing anyone could
Yep.
do about it. And yet now they've changed their mind.
Yeah, Sean Spicer sued the Biden regime. He wanted to stay on the, I believe it was the merit board, and they'd put him on the board for the Naval Academy, I believe. And sorry if I have one of those two wrong, because there were two people in the lawsuit. So they knew they would lose this case going forward. They wanted it on record that a judge decided that the executive, Biden at the time, did have the authority to put his own people on these boards and in these positions. So, of course, Sean Spicer and the other gentlemen lose their case. This is supposed to establish case law going forward, but even these judges are ignoring that, including this appeals court today. But this is the legal precedent that's been set. It was the same way with every previous president. It's not like they're disputing some minute piece of legislation or something else in the law or something else that happened. This is just judges straight up using their power to interfere with changes just to cause chaos. They know they're going to lose this case once it goes up to a court that actually cares about their reputation and isn't just corrupt like the DC court is. But that's what they're going to play on. And they probably got another good 6 months of this to go. And that's not counting any future lawsuits they bring out.
All of them need to be put on a list. The American people need to know the names of these judges and they need to be called into account on some level. There has to be something, it has to end that the judiciary has this much say in affecting the change, the outcome of our lives without any constitutional approval. There's no constitutional consent to what they're doing. They use their positions literally for activism, and for them to have no checks and balances on these judges truly it's really incredible. And for those who are saying Trump's not moving fast enough, this is literally his presidency. I envision in my mind like you're walking through the swamp, you're in the bogs, and every step is literally all of these rhinos, all of these left-wing lunatics, the NWO, the judiciary that's been bought, bribed, and blackmailed, and everything in between that is literally holding onto your legs while you're trying to walk towards freedom and salvation for your people. Somebody make that picture for me, because that's what I envision Trump's presidency being like. It is a daily battle. And again, as I said before, and I mean it now more than ever, we need to get behind President Trump's agenda and stop fighting him at every corner. I can't even understand at the intelligence of some of those on the right who are using their intelligence, their investigation skills, all these things to go after President Trump, when we have a literal, army of disgusting people who daily are trying to take our country away. But they don't use their skills and their power for that. They use it to go after the one man who has proven repeatedly he's willing to die for us in this country. I don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
You have to make it
No,
make sense for me.
It's not going to. It's sick. These people are owned. There's probably blackmail on them or God knows what else, or they really just are bought into the uniparty establishment. But there's two other points on these judges. We've been saying this for a little while, and Julie Kelly's got a big article up on Gateway Pundit about this today, or I should say they have an article about her. So, we need to, and the DOJ has mentioned this, they need to send somebody into this DC Circuit Court and find out how these Trump-hating judges keep ending up with all these cases, because it's supposed to be randomly assigned once these lawsuits are filed with the court. It's supposed to be randomly assigned to a judge, but somehow all these Obama and Biden appointees keep getting all these critical cases. So we need to figure out how that's happening, and if it is being done with the court staff, well, guess what? That's under DOJ. Fire them all, get somebody in there that'll actually be fair. And my other big problem with a bunch of these justices, and Laura Loomer's done a great job exposing these connections with Boasberg in particular, but all these other connections that they have either with friends or family, brother getting money from USAID or the State Department or wherever else. And under normal circumstances, if this were a Trump judge and they'd given $5 to some, pro-life campaign, or we're looking at one of these, pro-baby murder cases, we would demand they recuse themselves. Or sorry, the left would demand they recuse themselves. But with all these judges going after Trump right now with direct connections to NGOs that are funneling children around the country, or law firms working with the illegal aliens, all these connections to them and to their immediate family members, none of them will recuse themselves, and no one's talking about it. Again, I don't understand why we don't fight back.
What's the best approach you think? Again, I think this is part of the problem. Yes, we don't know how to fight back, but the complexities of these situations, it's real. The complexities are really there. And so to be able to break it down into kind of fifth grade language, I mean, I really struggle. I've listened to the interview with the Secretary of Treasury twice now to wrap my mind around how all this works. But I do think that is part of the problem. And the left knows that. These are very complex situations. We're talking about ambassadors even who are funneling money into other countries, interfering in their elections through our taxpayer dollars. That's embarrassing stuff for our country to have to acknowledge and have to how do you explain that in a way, and then who do you go to? Right now the FBI, they're still setting up their office. Things are not really ready and rolling just yet, that we've been told. So who do you go to and how do we do it?
Honestly, at this point, I feel like we played their game long enough. I would just make blanket statements, maybe just regarding the illegal immigration and the interference with personnel in the White House, and cite previous cases and state these inferior court judges do not have the authority to make the decisions that they're making right now that impact the entire nation. So we are going to be ignoring their rulings until the Supreme Court takes up our case. Because right now, I mean, that's the other part of the problem is the Supreme Court could intervene, and they've asked them to on a number of these cases, but they're in no particular hurry. And I think that's because, again, it was revealed Justice Roberts is in the same little club as Boasberg and a lot of these other attorneys, this private club for elite judges and lawyers in D.C.
Yeah.
And Ketanji Brown Jackson's also in this little club. So, again, if this is where this is coming through, maybe we need to also look at criminal charges there for this private group that is influencing the law and justice within our country from behind closed doors and, cigar smoke filled back rooms. Maybe they need an investigation as well.
I think you're absolutely correct, and I think there's something going on with my internet connection. Did you just drop too?
Nope, but you look like you're frozen all of a sudden. We still have your audio though.
Okay, well, I'll finish up on my audio because I think we're winding down anyway. But you're absolutely right. In other administrations, secret organizations like this would be investigated, and they would need to provide all of their inward communications to the public. I think it's just time. It's time to bring some true, like really calculable. You can gauge the impact of accountability, like real meaningful accountability to the judiciary across this country. Colorado is a great example of unprecedented actions by justices who are acting outside the Constitution and setting unprecedented rulings that make zero sense, that have no basis to them, no foundation. And I'm being vague about that, but if you followed Colorado for the last 5 years, you would know exactly what I'm speaking of. It's just unbelievable how they're getting away with pushing their radical leftist agenda and using their platforms as judges to advance their political activism. It's disgusting and it needs to end now. I mean, I shuddered a little bit too when we've done it on our side, to certain ones on the left back in the Clinton era. I thought that was I just don't know what I think about that. I'm reevaluating some of that now. But I think this sets it disrupts the efforts that need to be made in our country. It disrupts the advancements that need to be made in our country. And so when people are sitting there saying, why are we 4 months in and there's been no arrests? Well, why are we 4 months in and every judiciary that can is throwing the book at President Trump and will not stop with lawfare? When is the lawfare going to end so that President Trump can be about the business of the people who elected him in mass? He won the electoral and he won the popular vote, and these judges will not let him do his job. That's where I'm standing right now.
I think you're exactly right. We've got to put our foot down. We can't allow judicial tyranny or judicial insurrection, a judicial coup, whatever you want to call it. It's time to put our foot down and demand the rules are followed for our side, just like they are on the left, that no more abuse of the law, that we put an end to this judicial coup that's taking place. And that way, President Trump can move forward, executing what he was put in office for, what the people put him there for. And again, this is blowing up in their face. That is the only good thing, is support for the left continues to fall. They just look like bigger and bigger fools as they throw these temper tantrums at Tesla dealerships and burn down cars and attack people and just put forward this nonsensical garbage that the American people aren't buying.
Well, I think that's a great way to leave the show today. Michael Lauber, thank you always for your insight. And it just goes to demonstrate the absolute factual reality that if good men and women do not start standing up, then, evil is going to continue to prevail. We can't afford